The trade world of Kestrel 9 was not important on any map. It sat far from the bright lanes of galactic travel. A dusty place where old stations creaked, and forgotten people survived by habit more than hope. Ships came and went, but no one stayed long. It was the kind of world where trouble could happen quietly. Elias Carter had learned that quickly. He worked as a low-paid security contractor, hired to watch over storage bays that held cargo no one wanted to claim. His post was an old warehouse at the edge of the settlement. Metal walls stained by years of storms. The job was boring, but Elias did not complain. After leaving Earth, he had learned that boring meant alive. On that day, the air felt wrong. Elias stood near the main gate, helmet under his arm, eyes scanning the empty road. The sky was a dull gray, and the wind carried fine dust that settled into every crack. His scanner showed nothing unusual, but experience told him not to trust silence. Then he heard it, a faint sound, barely louder than the wind. Not mechanical, not animal. It was a soft, broken noise. Like crying. Elias frowned and turned toward the far side of the warehouse. That area was supposed to be sealed off. No cargo, no reason for anyone to be there. He hesitated only a second before moving. The door panel resisted when he pushed it open, complaining with a tired groan. Inside, the lights were dim, some flickering. Rows of empty crates stood like forgotten bones. The sound came again, clearer now. Elias followed it to a small maintenance alcove hidden behind stacked containers. What he found made him stop cold. Curled together on the floor were alien young. There were 5 of them, small and fragile-looking. Their bodies were covered in pale, soft scales that shimmered faintly under the light. Large eyes stared at him in fear. One of them clutched another. Trembling. They were children. That much was clear, no matter the species. Elias slowly lowered his weapon and took a step back, raising his free hand to show he meant no harm. "It's okay," he said quietly, though he knew they might not understand his words. "I'm not here to hurt you." The young made small clicking sounds, pressed closer together. One of them had a thin line of dried blood on its arm. That was when Elias understood. They were hiding. Before he could decide what to do next, his scanner chirped sharply. Multiple heat signatures. Fast-moving. Armed. Raiders. Elias cursed under his breath. Smugglers and mercenaries often targeted frontier worlds like Kestrel 9, stealing rare life forms to sell on the black market. Exotic, alien young were worth a fortune. He looked back at the children. "Damn it," he muttered. He could leave, call it in. It was not his responsibility. That was what most beings would do. But Elias remembered something from Earth, a simple idea his father had taught him long ago. If you're the only one standing between danger and someone who can't fight back, then you already know what you have to do. The sound of boots echoed outside the warehouse. Elias moved. He activated the emergency seal on the alcove, sliding a heavy panel halfway closed to hide the young. It would not stop determined attackers, but it might buy time. Then he turned and walked back into the open space, raising his rifle. The first raider burst through the main door, armor scratched and weapons humming with power. 2 more followed, spreading out. "There," one shouted. "Scanner shows movement." They saw Elias and laughed. "A human?" the leader said. "Out of the way. This doesn't concern you." Elias planted his feet. "It concerns me now," he said. The raiders raised their weapons. Elias fired first. The shot struck the ground near their feet, sending sparks flying. Not lethal, but enough to make them pause. "You don't want this," Elias said, voice steady despite his pounding heart. The leader sneered. "You think you can stop us alone?" Elias did not answer. He did not need to. The fight was fast and brutal. Energy blasts scorched the walls as Elias moved, using crates for cover, firing controlled shots. He was outnumbered and outgunned, but he used the environment, forcing the raiders to slow down, to separate. A blast hit his shoulder, burning through his armor. Pain exploded through him, but he stayed upright. Another blast grazed his leg. He stumbled, caught himself, and kept firing. Behind him, faint sounds echoed from the alcove. The young were still there, still watching. That thought gave him strength. The raiders grew frustrated. They had expected easy prey, not a human who refused to fall. "This isn't worth it," one shouted. "He's stalling." The leader hesitated, then growled. "Fall back. We'll report it." They retreated, firing one last shot that struck the wall inches from Elias's head. Then they were gone. Boots, fading into the distance. Silence returned, broken only by Elias's heavy breathing. He lowered his rifle and leaned against a crate, pain finally catching up to him. His shoulder burned, and his legs shook, but he was alive. Slowly, he turned and walked back to the alcove. He opened the panel. The alien young stared up at him, eyes wide. One of them crawled forward, hesitating, then reached out with a small, clawed hand and touched his boot. Elias knelt carefully, ignoring the pain. "You're safe," he said softly. "For now." The smallest of the young made a strange humming sound. Another pressed its head against his leg. Elias froze. He had faced pirates, smugglers, and worse. But this was different. He did not notice the faint glow spreading across the floor beneath them, or the subtle vibration in the air. High above Kestrel 9, far beyond the sight of any scanner, a signal awakened. A mother heard it, and she began to move. Elias did not sleep that night. He sat against the cold metal wall of the warehouse, rifle across his knees, eyes open. The alien young were gathered close, resting in a tight group. They no longer cried. Instead, they watched him with quiet attention, as if memorizing his shape. Outside, the wind howled across Kestrel 9. Elias checked his scanner again. Still quiet. No raiders. No ships nearby. Yet his nerves refused to settle. Something felt unfinished. At dawn, the feeling became fear. The sky changed color. Elias stepped outside the warehouse and looked up. The dull gray clouds were splitting apart, pushed away by a growing light. The air vibrated, deep and powerful, like the planet itself was holding its breath. Then the ship appeared. It was enormous, bigger than any trade vessel Elias had ever seen. Its surface was smooth and dark, marked with glowing lines that shifted like living veins. It did not descend fast. It arrived with calm certainty, as if nothing in the world could stop it. Alarms began to sound across the settlement. People ran. Shops closed. Old ships tried to lift off, only to fail, as the massive vessel projected a wide field of control over the area. Elias whispered a single word. "Great." Behind him, the alien young stirred. One of them made a soft, high sound. Another pressed closer to him. "You know this ship, don't you?" Elias said quietly. The vessel stopped directly above the warehouse. A beam of light descended, gentle but absolute, touching the ground like a pillar. From within it, figures emerged. They were tall and powerful, armored in smooth plates that matched the ship's design. Their movements were precise, disciplined. Weapons were visible, but not raised. They were not here to raid. They were here to reclaim. Elias raised his hands slowly and stepped forward, placing himself between the warriors and the warehouse door. The lead warrior paused, its head tilted slightly, as if surprised. "A human," it said, voice calm but strong. "You are not fleeing." Elias swallowed. "Someone has to stay." More warriors surrounded him, forming a circle. Their scanners passed over his injuries, his weapon, the building behind him. One spoke again. "The young are alive." Elias nodded. "They're inside. They're not hurt." The warriors exchanged silent signals. Then the air shifted. Something far heavier than the warriors stepped forward. She emerged from the light slowly, her presence bending attention toward her without effort. She was massive, her body covered in layered scales that shone with deep color. Her eyes were large, ancient, and filled with controlled emotion. This was no soldier. This was a mother. The warriors stepped aside as she approached Elias. She looked down at him, studying every detail. His stance, his wounds, the way he stood, despite fear. "You stood between them and death," she said. It was not a question. Elias met her gaze. "Yes. Why? The question struck harder than any weapon. Elias hesitated. There was no tactical answer, no smart reply. Only truth. Because they couldn't, he said simply. Silence followed. The mother turned her gaze toward the warehouse. A soft sound escaped her, low and resonant. The doors slid open without being touched. The alien young emerged slowly, blinking in the light. The moment they saw her, they rushed forward, calling out in their strange voices. The mother knelt, gathering them close. Her large form curved protectively around them. She touched each one gently, checking them, calming them. Then she looked back at Elias. "You are injured," she said. "I'll live," Elias replied. That was not guaranteed. Before Elias could respond, energy wrapped around him, not painful, but firm. His weapon was gently removed from his hands. The warriors guided him into the beam of light. Elias tensed. "Hey, wait! I didn't do anything wrong." The mother watched him carefully. "You will not be harmed," she said. "But you will not leave." The words settled heavy in Elias's chest. The beam lifted them upward. From above, Kestrel 9 looked even smaller. The settlement was frozen in fear. Tiny figures staring up at the ship. Elias wondered if anyone would remember him. Inside the vessel, the air was warm and clean. The walls glowed softly. Elias was guided into a chamber where a smooth platform waited. He was told to sit. Medical instruments moved around him, scanning, repairing burns, sealing wounds. The pain faded, replaced by numb relief. Elias watched the process silently. "So," he said after a moment, "am I a prisoner?" The warrior nearest him paused. "No." "Then what am I?" There was a brief delay, as if the word had to be translated carefully. "An obligation." That answer did not help. When the medical work was finished, Elias was led into a larger chamber. The mother waited there, seated upon a raised platform. The young were nearby, resting safely. "You protected what was most valuable to me," she said. "In my culture, such an act creates a bond." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't do it for a reward." Her eyes narrowed slightly, not in anger, but interest. "That is what troubles us," she replied. She explained that her species was old, ancient. Their history was marked by survival through strength and law. Bonds were defined clearly. Debts were measured and repaid, but Elias had acted without demand, without expectation. "You confuse our systems," she said. "And yet, you saved my children." Elias took a slow breath. "They're just kids." The mother studied him again. "Among most species, the young are protected because they will become powerful. Among humans, why are they protected?" Elias thought of Earth, of cities, of families, of strangers helping strangers. "Because they're small," he said. "And the world is dangerous." The mother closed her eyes for a long moment. When she opened them, her voice was quieter. "You may not leave yet," Elias sighed. "I figured, you will remain as a guardian guest," she continued. "Not watched as a threat, but honored as a protector." Elias looked at the young. One of them noticed and waved a small claw at him. Despite everything, Elias smiled. Outside the chamber, the ship turned slowly, its presence already sending shockwaves through the galaxy. News would spread. A human had stood alone, and a mother had taken notice. Time moved differently aboard the alien vessel. Days passed, or what Elias assumed were days, measured by the soft change of light along the walls. He was given a private chamber. Simple, but comfortable. Food was provided that had been carefully adjusted so his human body could accept it. No guards stood outside his door, yet he knew he was never truly alone. He was a guardian guest. The title carried weight. Elias could feel it in the way the warriors looked at him, not with suspicion, but with something closer to respect mixed with confusion. Humans were still rare in this part of space, and none had ever been given such a place. Elias spent much of his time with the alien young. They followed him whenever they could, small shapes moving quickly through the halls. They were curious about everything he did. How he walked, how he ate, how he laughed when one of them tried to copy his steps and failed. He learned their names as best he could. The sounds were hard for human speech, but they seemed pleased by his effort. One of them, the smallest, liked to sit near him and hum softly. The sound was calming, almost warm. The mother watched from a distance. She said little, but she observed everything. Elias could feel her attention like gravity, heavy, constant, impossible to ignore. Trouble came quietly. It began with whispers among the crew. Small shifts in behavior. Warriors who once greeted Elias now looked away. Meetings lasted longer behind sealed doors. The ship changed course without explanation. Elias noticed because humans were good at noticing things others ignored. One cycle, as Elias walked with the young through a wide corridor, the lights dimmed slightly. The hum of the ship deepened, tense. A warrior approached quickly. "Guardian guest," it said. "Please return to your chamber." "Why?" Elias asked. "There is a situation." That was never a good sign. Elias followed. But his mind worked fast. Situations meant conflict. Conflict meant danger. And danger always found the weakest first. He stopped walking. "Where are the young being taken?" he asked. The warrior hesitated. That hesitation told Elias everything. "No," Elias said firmly. "I'm staying with them." The warrior's hand moved toward its weapon but stopped. Orders were orders, but so was the bond. Before the tension could break, the mother's voice filled the corridor. "Bring them to me." Her presence arrived moments later. She looked displeased, not angry, but sharp, like a blade uncovered. "Speak," she commanded. The warrior bowed. External pressure. Allied factions question the human's presence. They claim the bond is irregular. Elias crossed his arms. "Let me guess. They think I'm manipulating you." "I'm manipulating you." The mother did not deny it. "They fear what they do not control," she said. "And humans are difficult to measure." That was the most honest thing Elias had heard all day. The mother turned to him. "You have caused imbalance." Elias nodded. "That tends to happen." A sudden alert echoed through the ship. Red light flashed once, then steadied into warning amber. "Report," the mother demanded. Another warrior rushed in. Attempted breach near the young's chamber. Internal access codes used. Elias felt his stomach tighten. Inside, "Help." The mother's eyes darkened. Yes, the truth came fast. A group within the Alliance believed the young were too important to remain under one mother's control. By creating chaos, they hoped to force a redistribution of power. Elias, the human, was seen as a weakness, a variable to be removed. "Where are they now?" Elias asked. "Contained," the warrior replied. "But the traitors are still active." Elias looked at the mother. "They'll try again." "Not directly. They'll wait." "You think like them," she said. "I think like someone who's been hunted," Elias replied. The mother studied him, then made a decision that stunned everyone present. "Then you will help us hunt." Elias blinked. "Me? You see patterns we do not," she said. "You sense danger before it strikes." That wasn't strength. That was survival, Elias agreed. Over the next cycles, he worked with the ship's security. He noticed small things. Who avoided eye contact? Who stood too still? Who asked questions that sounded harmless, but weren't? He suggested changes, simple ones. Routines altered. Access points shifted. The traitors grew impatient. They struck again. This time, alarms screamed. Energy doors slammed shut as the ship shook. The young were rushed toward the mother's inner chamber. Elias ran with them, heart pounding. A blast struck the corridor ahead, cutting off escape. Smoke filled the air. Elias pushed the young behind him, lifting his rifle. Figures emerged through the haze, armed, determined. "Human," one called. "Step aside. You do not belong here." Elias stood his ground. "I belong where I choose," he said. The fight was short and sharp. Elias used the narrow space, forcing the attackers into single lines. He didn't fight with rage, but with purpose. Protect. Delay. Survive. Warriors arrived moments later, overwhelming the traitors. When it was over, Elias leaned against the wall, breathing hard. He felt a familiar ache in his bones. The mother arrived last. She looked at the fallen attackers, then at Elias, who stood bloodied but unbroken in front of her children. "You risked your life again," she said. Elias shrugged weakly. Still breathing, the mother was silent for a long time. Finally, she spoke words that would echo far beyond the ship. "Let it be known," she said, voice carrying through every channel, "that the human stands under my protection. Any who threaten him, threaten me." The message spread instantly. Across fleets, across worlds, the galaxy listened. Elias did not hear the silence that followed, but he felt it. For the first time, the mother did not look at him with confusion. She looked at him with understanding. Humans did not protect because they were commanded to. They protected because they chose to. And that choice terrified the stars. The ship became quiet after the warning, not the calm silence of safety, but the deep stillness that followed a storm. Elias felt it as he walked the wide halls. Crew members moved with care now, watching each other, aware that trust had been broken and rebuilt at the same time. The traitors were gone. Some were captured. Some had fled. None had succeeded. The alien young stayed close to Elias. They no longer followed him, only out of curiosity. Now it was comfort. When he sat, they sat near him. When he walked, they stayed within reach. One often held on to the edge of his jacket, as if afraid he might vanish. Elias did not mind. The mother noticed everything. She called Elias to the central chamber, a place rarely used except for matters of great importance. The room was wide and open, its ceiling high, showing a slow-moving view of the stars above. Elias stood alone before her. "You wish to leave," the mother said. It was not a question. Elias nodded slowly. Yes. The word felt heavy. This ship had become a strange kind of home. But Earth was still out there. His people were still out there. And humans did not belong in cages. Even golden ones. The mother studied him carefully. "You have been given honor, safety, and status. Why would you choose uncertainty?" Elias thought for a moment. "Because that's where humans live," he said. "In the uncertain places." She accepted that answer without argument. "The galaxy has changed," she said. "Because of you." Elias shifted uncomfortably. "I didn't mean to cause trouble." "You caused clarity," the mother replied. "Others now see what humans are." She moved closer, towering over him. For the first time, her presence did not feel overwhelming. "My children have bonded with you," she continued. "In our kind, that bond lasts a lifetime." Elias swallowed. "I'd never hurt them." "I know," she said. "That is why this is difficult." The young entered the chamber quietly. They sensed something important was happening. One of them made a soft sound and pressed against Elias's leg. The mother lowered herself to their level. "This human must go," she told them gently. The young reacted at once. Some made sharp sounds of protest. One wrapped its arms around Elias's leg. Elias knelt down despite the ache in his body. "Hey," he said softly. "It's okay." The smallest one touched his face, studying it as if trying to remember every detail. Elias smiled sadly. "You're going to be fine. You've got the strongest mom in the galaxy." The mother watched in silence. Something old and powerful shifted behind her eyes. "You saved them," she said. "You taught them something we could not." Elias looked up. "What's that?" "That strength is not always loud," she replied. "Sometimes it stands still and refuses to move." The mother straightened. "I will not keep you," she said. "But I will not forget you." She raised one massive hand. Light formed around it, shaping into a symbol that hovered in the air complex. Ancient and alive. "You will carry the title Guardian of First Trust," she declared. "Through you, our species acknowledges humanity." Elias felt the weight of the moment press down on him. "What does that mean?" he asked. "It means," the mother said, "that harming a human protector will be seen as a declaration of hostility. It means your people will be watched with caution and with respect." The galaxy would hear those words. Arrangements were made quickly. A human transport vessel was summoned from the nearest neutral station. No one interfered. No one dared. As Elias prepared to leave, the young gathered around him one last time. They gave him small objects, smooth stones, woven fibers, simple gifts with deep meaning. Elias accepted each one carefully. "I'll remember you," he promised. The mother escorted him to the departure chamber herself. "You will survive," she said. "That is what humans do." Elias smiled faintly. "We try." As the transport lifted away, Elias looked back through the viewport. The massive alien vessel remained still, watching. The mother watched too. She understood now. Humans were not the strongest species. They were not the oldest. They were not the most advanced. But when faced with fear, they stepped forward. When faced with danger, they did not look away. When faced with innocent lives, they stood their ground. Across the stars, the story spread. A human had stood alone. A mother had tested him, and the galaxy had learned a quiet truth. Never threaten what a human has chosen to protect.